Welcome to another episode of BTW with BTM, our shorter format series where we break down the latest digital marketing trends and what they really mean for your brand and how they can impact it. I'm your host, Jason Dodge, founder of BlackTruck Media and Marketing. Today, we're diving into changes that might have flown under the radar for many digital marketers, but it's created waves in the SEO community specifically. Google's quiet removal of the and num equals 100 search parameter, which is a super nerdy thing. I totally get it, but let's do a decent job of breaking this down so it's not feeling so nerdy. So what it is, why it matters, is it anything that you really need to pay attention to? Well, let's kick this off by what has changed. So for years, search professionals could append and num equals 100 to a Google search URL. So you perform a Google search and then you toss on the end of it and num equals 100, which forced the results in Google to display 100 listings on the first page instead of the normal default 10, right? The 10 blue links that you might be used to seeing as a marketer. And it was a useful little trick, not something everyday users would know about, but certainly SEOs, search professionals, some digital marketers, and absolutely reporting tools lean on this feature very heavily. And recently, Google disabled that parameter entirely. So no more 100 results per page available. We're back to 10 by default. Well, why does this matter for digital marketers? Why does it matter specifically, probably more for SEOs and search marketers? So on the surface, it sounds pretty minor, but let's break it down. Three different areas to consider how this impacts things. Reporting and rank tracking, first and foremost. Many SEO tools, custom scripts rely on the and num equals 100 parameter to quickly capture the full set of top results in one request. Without it, scraping or even manual checks become much slower. They become probably much more fragmented, right, as you're trying to piece those components together. The second one is just SERP analysis in general. Having 100 results at once made it much easier to scan competitor presence, identify trends, evaluate visibility beyond the quote-unquote first page of Google results. Now that visibility is much more tedious to access. It's there and it's available. It's just not as easy for tools and marketers to capture in kind of one fell swoop, which that really leads us to the third one here, which is workflow efficiency. So for SEOs who use this trick either daily or tools inside of keyword research processes, client reporting on our end, competitive audits, that removal really adds frictions and it impacts everything. Whether you're a SEMrush user, a Moz user, Ahrefs user, it doesn't matter. It impacts all of the reporting tools. And I'll drop a link in the show notes. Really excellent, super technical SEO in our industry, Brody Clark, put in his deep dive that it feels more like, is it really a decoupling from one of those hidden levers that SEOs used to pull on? I think it more impacts a lever that impacted reporting tools. I wouldn't necessarily say this is something that SEOs were using from a negative perspective. It's just simply an easy way to get the top results and to show where brands were showing up and what was potentially moving the needle. So there's some signs in the data, and this is where things get interesting, is we've seen reporting inside of Google Search Console showing impressions drop by probably, I would say, half by some brands. Now, before everyone freaks out and before the panic sets in, and kind of our mantra, at least at BlackTruck, is don't freak out, right? We have to really wait for things to stabilize and the dust to settle here. Is this hasn't impacted actual traffic to those sites where you're seeing that interaction and that activity from search. Clicks are also remaining stable. If anything, what you're going to see in reporting is that impression data is going to shrink. Rankings improve because, again, you're not showing the top 100 results. It's based on the top 10. So what we're going to see is we're going to see reporting artifact tied to the change, not a real world decline in performance of your SEO or the efficacy of your search campaigns. It's really, I would say, it's a critical distinction that SEOs need to be able to communicate. And that's a big part of this, is to communicate to you all that the charts might look different, but the audience reach hasn't actually suffered. If anything, it was pretty much a blow for the SEO industry to say, look at how much scrapers and crawling tools were actually hammering on and impacting impressions and impression share data. So how's the industry responding to this? Barry Schwartz over at Search Engine Roundtable has captured this pretty extensively, and the community's reaction pretty well. And most SEOs, I would say, are frustrated, not because the average searcher is going to notice it, but it's because this was really a behind the scenes lifeline for data collection. Let's just call it what it is. So some in the SEO community are questioning whether or not this was tied to Google's broader moves to limit scraping and data extraction, especially as Google and others invest in new AI-driven search experiences. So there's a lot of questions out there. As SEOs in the SEO community, we're generally and naturally skeptical, especially when changes happen. What does this mean? It's still a little too early to tell, right? Google hasn't even technically gone on the record to say why they did this. So let's talk about possible outcomes and where does this really leave us. Again, 3 areas. Tool adjustments. You can expect rank tracking platforms and SEO tools to adapt quickly. Many of them have, either by requesting more paginated results or finding new workarounds, or they've limited it and said, hey, you really should just look at the top 20, which truthfully, let's be honest, looking at the top 10, maybe the top 20 is probably a better indicator of, where your search presence is to begin with. More data limitations. There's some questions that come around this. Could this signal a bigger trend? Google tightening control over how third parties collect SERP data. Sure, absolutely. Keep in mind, like, search results cost Google money. It costs money to generate said results. Data centers are not cheap to produce, right? So, cleaning the SERPs up or shrinking down the amount of data that tools and SEOs have access to technically is going to save some money here and there. That might be a little bit of a long shot, but that's just one theory that I'm working on. There's some temporary growing pains. It's also possible that this disruption is going to fade as tools adapt. And then on the SEO side, we're simply going to adjust our workflows, right? So from a brand perspective, again, what does that mean to you? Well, takeaways for us, like I would say, let's call this takeaways from an SEO. And if you're doing SEO in-house or your agency side, here's some things that you should keep in mind. You want to check your tools. If your reporting tools and tracking data looks off, it might be tied to the loss of the and num equals 100. We see it in Google Search Console. You're going to see it in some of your rank tracking tools. Again, rank's probably going to stabilize, but that volume data that you see is going to be off. That leads me to my second point, and it's always the one that I remind people of the most, is don't panic. Don't freak out. We're not going to panic over impressions. Drops in Search Console impressions don't necessarily equal loss traffic. You're going to validate that with clicks and traffic data before raising any alarms. If you're tracking and monitoring impressions as a signal of visibility and discoverability in the SERPs, then you're looking for the trends. What's trending up, what's trending down over time. Certainly, if you're looking at this in some 7-day rolling average or even the 28-day rolling average coming up, it's not going to look that great. But what you want to look at is look at the trends over time. So as my friend Dana DiTomaso always says, you want to look at the trend and not the absolute. I would say this is another case. Look at the trends, not the absolutes. And you can expect workarounds. So tool providers are already pivoting on this, but the data gathering is probably going to take a little longer and, quite honestly, look a little bit differently as well. So again, back to my final point, watch the trend. It could be starting more restrictions on SERP visibility and scraping. So, certainly keep an eye on industry commentary, just like the news and information that we put out here at BlackTruck, and try and inform you on, why does this matter to me on the brand side of things. So at the end of the day, it's just one of those changes that most users will never notice. And that's the key thing to take away here is, does this impact my brand? The reality is no, it doesn't impact your audience. It doesn't impact the user. For us on the SEO side, it's another reminder of how dependent our work is on Google's decisions and how important it is to separate reporting quirks from real performance changes. So if you're headed into the boardroom and you're reporting on quarterly results, you need to expect that there's going to be some changes here. So hopefully this is a little bit of a primer to help you understand how that conversation is going to go and a little bit of a narrative on how to approach that. So that's it for this episode of BTW with BTM. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you found this helpful. Please absolutely subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to our podcast. Check out our main show, the Redirect Podcast, where we dig even deeper into trends, have industry guests on, and we talk about those things that are really shaping your digital marketing efforts. So until next time, good luck.